Hey there, it's Chris. Welcome back to the next part of the Yoshitaka Mono mobile platform project, where last couple times this has finally been kind of coming into its own as we started getting the legs popped on here. We got the two legs out in the front, and we actually now have this connected in the back, so if we bring down in here, we finally have no extra support underneath. It is now pretty well self-supported on itself here, which is good. So this time, as you can imagine, we got the front legs done. So our goal now is to get this back foot and get these back legs in, which, if you're being very observant right now, and you're looking really close at this guy, you might notice a slight change since last time. And that is, I realized I didn't like how this was sitting in here once this kind of the angle came in. It was sitting way too far down. So the leg was actually going into the ground. So what I did was I took another little piece of wood here, I glued it onto the side, kind of ground it down a little bit, so that it would sit a little more correctly in there and fill the space. I then took a little bit of the plumber's putty that I have here, put it along the inside, put along all the edges here so it kind of smooths out. You can get a little sandpaper, kind of smooth this out so once this all gets painted up nice and good, you're not even going to know that that's a separate piece in there. And now at least when we come down, we have a nice flow into that knee joint. So this time I said our goal is going to be getting the foot done. So as we bring our camera back up from laying on the ground, and what I've done is with the same piece of base trim that I used to do that first piece with, it looks like I have the wrong image on the side. Looks like I need to slide you over. Oh, I'm on my A game right now. Looks like we bring this guy over. It's a really kind of smallish, kind of skinny-ish foot in the end back here. It's definitely not the same size as the ones in the front. So I'm going with this guy again, and I've drawn out generally what we're going to be using on this. I'm going to try to do it out of one piece of material here. Then yeah, I'm going to cut that out, and we'll start seeing if we can detail this thing and get it together. So I've got that ready to go. I've got my jigsaw here. So I'm going to disappear for just a few seconds. I'll be right back, and when I am, we'll at least have the outline of that cut, and then we'll go from there. So hang tight. All right, and we're back. And as you can see, I now have the outline of that foot cut out there. I took out the extraneous stuff so nothing's going to break if things fall over, because things seem to always fall over on this. But if we come back to the main splash page of what we're actually going to be looking at, you can see the front legs are definitely extended very far, and that back one is just really, really curled up as it looks over there. I was kind of showing that because it feels like it's very kind of condensed in here, a lot of stuff happening in that one corner, but that is the general look it goes for. And it's a little awkward being it's the white front, but I'm basing this off of a trim piece that we had, so it just kind of has to be what it has to be. So I'll be honest, I haven't done that much pre-looking at this so far, so we're going to be doing a lot of kind of figuring out on camera here and how to get this to work. But first off, let's just get what I can see are extraneous parts off here. Again, I got the rough shape cut out with the jigsaw, but there's a little bit of fine-tuning to do with this. Helps if you see things on camera. It sure does. It sure does. Alright. There's actually not that much cleaning up to do. I actually cut this one closer than I have some of the other ones. Bring that in just a little bit. And just kind of cleaning up this ankle area just a little. And this should probably actually look a little more rounded. Again, big thing on all these things, just kind of rounding off edges. So Okay, so that gets us our basic shape on that. I have my own screenshot here that I'm going to be going off of. If you look at the side, I'm going to be going off of this guy kind of continuously. So now that took up my entire computer screen. I don't have a second monitor on me, so give me 1 second while I make sure we're back to centered again. Okay, so that's kind of getting a feel for this. This guy is going to come into there somewhere. I need to actually shrink. I did measure this main length on that. That's only wants to be about, I think, 1 inch long at the most. And part of that inch actually goes into this. So right now we're sitting significantly more. We are 1 inch and almost 3/8. So let's go ahead and shrink that down a little bit. Now I can't use a jigsaw. That's going to break this whole thing if I just kind of try to pop that on. So we're just going to grind it down with this guy, and hopefully that will be good. So I just need to get you down to about there. Yeah, this goes by pretty quick. Not the normal way of cutting things. But at this point, I don't want to jigsaw it out there, so that's going to cause a whole bunch of other problems. So trying to solve problems without causing any new ones to happen. That's the game plan. Will it always work? No. But okay, and I finished that by kind of chamfering the edge just a little bit in case I need to drill a hole into this. It gives it a nice, easier way to kind of start into it than if you just have it flat, flat, flat. So that's there. This guy is actually going to stay longer, which is okay. I didn't grind this down at all straight. Alright, now we chamfer the edge just a little bit, or bevel the edge, or whatever the word is I'm looking for. I think bevel is the word. Yeah, that's just so it can slide into a hole easier when we get to that point. Now this little guy is going to wind up being a little bit longer because it's going to need to reach a little bit further into that foot so it can actually do something. Okay, so from here, actually I probably should just drill the hole that this goes into first, get that ready to go, get the angle done, and then we go from kind of there. That might be helpful. So I'm actually going to want the whole 9 yards. Sorry about that. I'm going to want the whole 9 yards over here. Maybe not you. Don't need that. Okay, so as long as this is sitting here, I'm going to have you up, and if that foot is sitting flat, then that's going to give us an idea of where our hole is going to, that's not the pencil, that's an idea of where our hole needs to be. Now I can come down just a little bit too, but we're going to be centered, and the top is going to be over there. So that's the top of our hole. We're actually going to come down from that. So if we have a top, I've got a bottom. So we're going to be kind of between those. So our center is going to be right about there. And we're kind of centered in our opening. Bam. Bam. Actually, I want to be up just a little bit because if I'm looking at this, it almost looks like this shrinks a little bit as it goes down. It doesn't stay a pure cylinder. So I'm actually just going to do a little bit of that. I'm just being very, very gentle on this. I'm not pushing down too hard. I don't want to kind of take too much. It just wants to be a very kind of subtle effect. Not burn the hand on that. That would be bad. I already have enough problems with my fingers. I don't need any more. Okay, let's just give that a little bit of a sand, kind of smooth down any rough edges on there. Because the sanding will always kind of give rough edges. So, yeah, like I said, it's not a huge change, but it makes a little bit of a difference if you actually look at it. Okay, so what size did we make things? How does 15 64ths look? 15 64ths looks pretty okay. That's 7/32. Again, I can measure this just kind of off the bottom end because the bottom end is what we're looking for. 7/32 feels like it's right on. I do have this kind of test block I can use, kind of drill through that, and we'll see how this fits. And the good thing is I don't need to 100% duplicate this thing on the other foot because the other foot's going to be flexed a different way. So I'm not too worried about making everything work nicely. My fingers are out of the way when I'm drilling this. That's really all I need. Doesn't even have to go all the way through because this isn't going to be going in very far. And it holds itself pretty well. Let me try one size smaller. What does that bring us down to? 13 64ths. Let's try 13 64ths. Again, I don't need this to go in very far. So so if this gets started in that does get started in there, and it kind of really locks it in. So I think that's the game plan. 13 64ths. Again, remember it started as a 1/4 inch piece, so it started its life as 16 64ths. So we did shrink it down a little. But that's going to go in there. And what's my general angle going to be? Again, if we're sitting here, I'm coming up. What I like to do for the angle is when I'm doing this type of stuff, is I take it and I take a pencil line and just kind of on the side of what I'm doing, I draw the line in there. So that when I get the drill in here, I can now line it up with that line. But again, we're going to start with a smaller bit and work our way up to this because this is going to cause problems if I don't do it that way. I've already been having problems trying to drill these little tiny pieces because there's not that much to hold. When there's not that much to hold, the bit tends to grab it very nicely and it swings in your hand. So we are going to try to be all the good. Once again, we start perpendicular to where we need to go. And then we go in. Okay, that should be plenty. It doesn't need much. It does not need much. Okay, and what I learned from before is we're going to widen this in a couple stages just because I don't want this thing to spin in my hand. Drill. Drill. All right. I think now we're good to go with the real thing. Yeah, because this will be good because now if we need to carve it down smaller, there's going to be less chance of breaking things than if I carved it down first and then tried to do this. Yeah, that winds up being a pretty beefy hole in there, but it's what we need to make this work. Okay, so if that's... It feels like I am quite a ways above where I want to be. But it still gives that effect, and what I do want to see is when this guy comes up and in, that's not going to be in the way of stuff. No, that's not in the way of things. So this isn't in the original, so it's going to make things feel a little more, yeah, condensed. This almost feels like it wants to be down just a little bit more rather than straight up, but I think our hole kind of is where it is right now, and the foot's kind of facing the way it is, so it's a little squarer than the initial. Actually, I don't really need the foot to be on the ground. Although I don't want it leaning back because the other foot is going to be going back and giving it a little more of a look. So I could do something like that. That would work. That's in there. Everything kind of looks good. It feels good. It's going to go in. Okay. I like that. I don't know where the little tiny... Yes, I do. So you're up here. What are you going to do? You're just kind of there. You almost just get a little bit of a channel, and that's going to be it for you. I see to... Yeah, really... You're just going to get a little bit of an indent. Okay, I think I have too much stuff in this one little space, but we're going to deal with this really... Okay, I thought it was like half hour or something. We were going kind of quick. Okay. Okay, it's just giving ourselves a little bit of a channel. So when this comes in, which it still fills that void. Having him fall over, that's not good. Okay, so that means that's going to go there. I can shrink it just a little bit, and it will click into that channel, and life will be good. This I can do with a knife. This thing is super small and skinny. And if all else fails, I can make another one of these. So on that front, I am not concerned on really anything. Yeah, that'll just kind of fit right there. And we have, I don't know if you can see it on that, but that gives us that little detail. So we got kind of the main parts are now in there. It sits, it's doing what it wants, but we are very, very flat. So we don't want this to be very, very flat. We want to actually now give it a little bit of relief, which the good thing is we don't need this anymore. So I can move a bunch of things out of here. Oop. I don't need the drill anymore. I don't need the drill bits anymore. I don't need some of these random blocks anymore. Realistically, I don't need this thing anymore. Let's just go and kind of clean up our workspace just a little bit here so I have a little bit of room to operate and do stuff. Even this guy can go at this point. So let's move you out of the way. So he's now back there. We don't need that. We got this guy. That's all we need. And maybe a cleaner workspace. Okay. Whew. Alright, so how do we want to do this? Once again, I haven't really looked at how I want to do this, so we're just doing this on camera and just kind of winging it as we go. I know I drew a little line down there, but all right. So I want right now this circle. Basically anything that's shaded on the outside here, I'm going to skinny up just a little bit. And take that out. We don't need that anymore. Yeah, you're fine. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm on camera. I should have had two screens for this one available, and I think my hand is going to get kind of in the... I think my hand is going to be kind of in the way of things. Maybe if I do it like this, I'm just kind of moving the camera so, hey, it's not falling off the edge. Okay. I think might be a little bit of a shadow being caused by this. There's not much I can do on that, but I think we can both see what I'm doing now with this. Yes, I'm just kind of taking this outline part. I'm going to have that pop. Have it stay out beyond the other part. We're even going to be a little skinnier than the foot itself. Yes, right now we're just doing the little things. Although there's really not that much that's going to go into this foot. I don't believe there's going to be that much going into this one. So this should be relatively simple. One of those, I know simple isn't simple-minded. I know that phrase, but I'm not seeing the complexity in here that I've seen in other parts that we've done. I think the hardest part's already done. The hardest part is, I think, just lining things up and making sure the holes and all that fit, which they now do. So with that part done, this shouldn't be too bad. So I'm going to have that. We're going to be rounding off these edges. I should probably do the same kind of on the other side. I don't know why I keep using this like really awful looking pencil. I can use one that at least kind of looks like a pencil. Not this like glow-in-the-dark orange Halloweenish kind of looking thing. We can use a real, well, quote-unquote real-er looking one. Okay, so we come down to about there. And let's do the same thing. Give ourselves, where's the foot start? Foot's starting over here. Foot is starting over there. So our foot's doing that. Okay. So same deal. Although the good thing is nobody's ever going to see this side, but it's still going to be done the same way. Or if any of the friends come over and take a look at this part and comment that it doesn't quite look the same as the other side, as I've said other times, they weren't real friends to begin with. Because you're going to have to try to see this part. This side's on the back side, under everything. You have to look around stuff, so yeah. Sometimes the bit just doesn't want to release itself. Okay, big drum sander, you're up. Same thing as last time, nothing changes. Alright, time for the other side. Okay. Again, we're just not really pushing down at all, just kind of doing a light kind of bas-relief kind of indentation on this. Not much more than that. Just enough you can kind of see it in there. And I think I would like to round off this whole thing. We have these big kind of honking square sides, and that just doesn't feel right. So we're gonna, kind of like how we did on the front leg, the first part of the front leg, just gonna round off the edge here. Again, we're not really pushing down hard. It's not going to take much to do this, to get this effect going. So we can already see it's already giving a nice little effect on that. It didn't take much. Alright, same as on the back. We don't need a square thing on the back. Now if this were like a Gundam thing or some kind of, kind of mech thing like that, I'd be probably doing a whole lot more detail-y things in here. But there is kind of an organic kind of look to this. And part of organic is you do want to have some kind of mech-looking kind of elements, but you also want to have nice kind of smooth edges, plain areas. You don't need detail everywhere. So our goal is not to over-detail this thing. It's just a little bit of something here and there, and that'll give it a little bit of a look. That's it. I think I can go deeper than what I went on this. Because it's still very rectangular kind of looking at it, so having a little bit more off probably isn't a bad thing? Question mark? Oh, I love when pieces go flying. Didn't go far. I didn't hear a big thud. No, it's right at my feet. Somehow it made its way under the table that I'm sitting at. Don't know how that happens, but I think that's some kind of magic ricochet. I don't know. Okay, kind of doing a little bit of kind of that foot kind of calf coming into the foot look. I may not be going all the way on that. We do have at least a little bit of that kind of going on. I do need to do something with the ball on the top here for sure. That just feels not right, but okay, a little bit of sanding does wonders. A little bit of sanding does wonders. I feel like I kind of want to shrink you a little bit more. We have a little more organic form going on here. And now with that, we can bring this down a little bit too, so it kind of follows along with. It'll still pop out, but we can get it to follow along a little bit with the contour of that leg there. And that makes it feel a little more correct that way. It's not just a straight thing coming down. Okay, I do want to be definitely skinnier on the foot here. Not sure I need the heel part here skinnier, but we're doing it. Yeah, we definitely have now a little more of an organic form going on here with the kind of that hourglass shape going. Like I said, it can have some kind of mechanical feel, but it's not bad having a little bit of that organic feel. It's like that kind of, I'm kind of looking for that awkward middle ground where it could be a little bit of one, a little bit of the other. And I think we're kind of there on that. It's both organic and not quite organic. Okay, so kind of like the other foot, we got to round this off a little bit. Okay, that's actually not terrible. I do need some more work on that. I guess we're gonna do we started with the ball here on top, and I guess that's probably gonna be our ending point too. The alpha and the omega of this part, as it will. Okay. That was just, feels like this is kind of slipping on top. And let me pick up my image real quick to take a look. And yeah, they kind of keep it pretty, it does kind of read kind of plain-ish on here. So I'm not going to don't want to go overboard on that. But it does have just a little bit of an indent on the bottom here. Just to kind of mimic, I guess, a shoe or something with the sole on the bottom. You have just that little bit of a sole on there, so we have a little bit of a shoe-ish feel, but that's it. It's just kind of references like a shoe kind of look without actually being a shoe. Oh, trying to sand tiny pieces is not as easy as it feels like it should be. Okay. Okay, so I'm kind of liking this. I should probably sand the other part up here that I just did. Yes, I'm not disliking this. I think it's coming out okay. Oh, you're here. I was like, where did this piece go? So that's going to go in there. That's kind of how we're looking now. So now we want to do... What do I want to do with this? What do I want to do with that? I could indent the thing a little bit. So again, we have two kind of larger outer edge areas. I can see just looking at the image that my connection here is not being rendered kind of... It looks like on theirs is almost like this square frame that comes around here that these guys hook into. But I see that and I see things breaking very, very easily, which is why I'm not doing that. So I want to keep this thing in something solid here. But I gotta do something with this. Either I shrink the outer edge and keep the top kind of as is, or indent. I think on the... Just looking at the back side of this, I almost want to indent the back side just to have this... Yeah, I'm going to indent the back side just a little bit. Yeah, that just... Like I said, we are 100% just making this up as we go. There we go. Do a little bit of something. And don't want to go too deep. Just ultimately, it's just going to be the hint of something going on, perhaps without really having any real kind of thing going on. Just going to do that. Let me get... This bit never seems to want to come out. I think it's just a hair fatter than it needs to be. Alright, use the little one, just kind of... Just a little something to kind of... Organically, you'd expect this to kind of get wider. Inorganic, having it come out kind of makes it feel a little more machine-like. So we're kind of... Again, we're kind of playing a little bit of both worlds on this. Just because we can. And sometimes that's the only reason we need. Just... We can do something, so why not? We're dealing with kind of with aesthetics right now rather than form, rather than function, all that. Now we're just going general feel of aesthetics. Does it kind of work? Does it kind of not work? Like I said, if nothing else, we've created that little bit of play between organic and inorganic. It seems to be kind of the theme of this leg here, is just organic versus inorganic kind of feel. And I guess I can see this thing chipped on the bottom here a little bit, and you know what, I'm just going to use that. I can bring you down. We can have a little bit of a wishbone thing kind of going in here. Sometimes just if something goes wrong, sometimes we just use it. Which is going to be all well and good until I get to the other foot and have to mimic this. At which point I'm going to be asking myself, why did I do this? All I'm doing is making more work for myself. Why? I might not. Yeah, let me get the other. Let's get the drum sander on here. And I'm actually pretty well finished with what I want to do on this. And I'm looking at the time, and time is saying we're kind of around there too. So it's all coming together. Alright, so we got a little extra detail in that, which didn't plan on having, but it's there now. I'm not doing anything with it. It's actually I have the wrong side going in there, so we need you to get in. It kind of clicks. Good thing is I don't need to glue. This thing is going to need to be hecka glued in there, that's for sure. That's for dang sure. But if we have you go in, that's going out over there, and we have ourselves, yeah, if we go back to our let's see, if I bring up splash page, I want to be down, yeah, something like, may not be 100%, but I'd say it's probably close enough. It works. It gets the job done. Front leg does feel like it goes out very much farther, but that's the way it is. It's a coiled spring back here. And we're going to see what happens off camera, because ideally this would be where I could say, hey, we're good. We can start priming this next time because we've done all of the elements at least once. But I do have a sufficient number of things that I need to do in the background before I can start priming this. I still have the back portion here on the back leg. I have 3 sessions worth of stuff I've done on camera I need to do on this back leg, 1, 2, and now the foot on here. I do the tassels back there. I still have this to carve out back. I might do a little cleanup on the back side of this. There's still a number of little things I need to get done, and we're going to see. My game plan is this is being recorded actually on a Thursday night. It's going out on Saturday. So I do have the weekend before the next one goes out on Tuesday. So if I can get all of this stuff done over the weekend, then the next session could just be the priming. We'll start getting the painting stuff going on this. If I don't get things done over the weekend, I do have a 12-mile run I want to do this time. We have the Olympics are now starting. There are other interests going on. I might get sidetracked with things. We also have potentially the coldest day I'm ever going to see recorded where I live right now. Could be coming up on Saturday. That could be cool. That might make things interesting. So, yeah, we'll see. If I can get all this stuff done over the weekend, we'll get to priming. If I don't, we might just have a session or two of just kind of finishing off some of these little details. And then, yeah, priming and painting is now going to be coming up in the short term, not long from now. Hopefully next time, but if not, it won't be far. We are now pretty well done with this carving portion, which is making me feel really, really good. I'm not going to actually, I was thinking of putting the globe on here. No, we're not balanced enough to stick with globe on that, but no, feeling good. It's all together. Once again, I just want to show off the piece because I never actually show off my pieces correctly on camera when I'm done with them. I've realized so you can actually see what we're doing. Plus I can make thumbnails for myself later on when I go to upload these. But yeah, that's where we are, and that's kind of our game plan for next week. Might be finishing stuff, but at least as the week goes on, we will be painting and making this look good. So happy for that. And until then, and until that next time comes, enjoy.